So Ben, last week we recorded about the SCOTUS hearings, and I think I was pretty clear that I knew what the outcome would be.
Well, that's true, Mike. You did, but I mean, come on. Who didn't know what the outcome was going to be?
Hold on a second. Now, you're a pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't the Bible say that there's only one true test of a prophet, and it's whether or not those prophecies come true?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it was so much of a prediction or if you were just making a statement of the obvious.
I think it's a matter of perspective. I mean, I'm right, and you're wrong, and my reality should be your reality.
That seems to always be the case with you, but all right, since you're wanting to be so smart, give me your prediction. Who's going to win next week's presidential election?
Now, before I go there, okay, I just want to say, this is not going to be your normal Bible talk, and 2021 isn't going to be a normal year.
Dude, we get it. Let's just get this thing started, shall we? This is the Thinking Cup Podcast.
Two men.
Dude. Come on, dude.
2 cups of coffee.
I've never had anything like this.
1 table.
This is not your normal Bible talk.
This is a podcast.
Bringing the tough topics to sip on.
Guacamole or guacamole?
Whatever.
Mike Colburn.
I have a tendency to remain quiet.
Ben Orian.
You haven't told me a dumb dad joke yet today, and I certainly haven't told you one.
This is not your normal Bible talk.
Oh boy.
It's the Thinking Cup Podcast.
Oh boy.
Welcome to the Thinking Cup Podcast.
Hey, welcome back. It's good to be back. Feels like I've been gone for a little bit, but it's good to be back in the seat. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You have been gone, haven't you?
I have. You were gone first, and then last week I was gone.
I'm grateful you're still alive, man.
I don't know why you would say something like that.
Some people might not be, but I am.
That's probably true. There's probably somebody out there going, man, that trip should have been the end, but thankfully it wasn't.
Well, I was told that just in case you had your life insurance ready to roll, everything was good, right?
I did. The day before I left. For those that don't know, once a year, I go with some friends to Moab, Utah, and we do some pretty crazy off-road riding. I showed you some of the videos. What'd you think?
I thought that you were crazy. That's what I thought. And it probably was a lot of adrenaline, and probably a lot of excitement.
It was.
A lot of things could have gone wrong. In fact, maybe a few things did. I think one of your friends...
Yeah, one of my friends was riding hops on his motorcycle and had a bit of a bigger landing than he was anticipating and broke his leg, but he'll be all right in a couple months.
So for clarity, hops isn't like some alcoholic drink, right?
No. In fact, they actually call them whoops. They're ups and downs in the sand, and you just kind of ride across the top of them. You don't go all the way through them on a motorcycle. You go across the top of them, and at the end, instead of it being about a 2 or 3 foot drop, it was more like a 6 foot drop, and he came down pretty hard at 45, 50 miles an hour, and he's lucky he wasn't sitting on his seat. He would have probably had some compression fractures in his back, but just his leg. He was in great spirits. He was.
Just his leg.
It's funny, just that morning before we left, he says, I'm 57 years old and I've never broken a bone in my entire body. And then he broke 2, and so we teased him that he got a 2-for-1 deal.
Well, but, we're glad you're back, man. We are super grateful that you are back.
I appreciate that. Well, so last week you kind of stopped the show to do something, so I had to do the same thing this week. And
is this a thing?
Yeah, this is a thing. So you brought me a mug last week, so I've got one for you this week. It's got Moab on the front, and those are images not of anything I did.
I was going to say, you're going to make me drink you?
But,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, a little something to drink your beverages out
Very
of.
good.
And it was a lot of fun.
Moab.
Just for the sake of those that are listening to the podcast, I'm going to put there you go. He's showing you the picture. I'll put a video. I'll dub a video in on the video side of things so that folks can kind of see what I was talking about. Because I have a video where I showed it to you earlier, where I'm dropping off of a 6-foot ledge or about 5.5-foot ledge in the Razor. It's kind of kind of hairy.
Yeah, like I said, I am very grateful that everything went well.
It was good. All right, so you got this coffee mug. What are we drinking today, man? This is some good stuff.
So I went to the store yesterday and was intentionally trying to purchase one specific 2-pound bag of a specific. It's got like a strawberry hint to it.
Yeah.
And ended up coming home and they had given me the wrong one. I don't know if anyone listening has
That's
ever bought
the worst.
some, and you're expecting, right? I go to open it up. Fortunately, I didn't open it up, but I go to open it up and I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So I went back and I got a couple of additional ones, and we're drinking one of those.
Yeah.
I will tell you, if any of you are coffee drinkers, this is the year of Ethiopia and Colombia coffee. I've got several Ethiopian coffees. This one is Ethiopia Bombay Natural. And if you took the E off of Bombay, it's a bomb in your mouth. That's what it is. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Strawberry, crisp apple, sugarcane, lavender, and what is the strongest hint for you?
Yeah, the apple is just screaming at me every time, but it's really good.
It's delicious.
It is phenomenal. This is, the crappy coffee. It was good, but I rated it a 6. I'm going to put this up there. Maybe, I might even go 8 on this one. This is really good.
I think you're just feeling better from coming back from vacation.
Maybe so.
Oh goodness, yeah. Let's. I'm a little bit anxious with this particular talk because I guess I'm supposed to make some prediction or something. I guess, right?
Well, let's have a conversation.
Okay.
We're calling today Election Panic, the fight for your vote. And it's heating up. As we're recording this, we are less than a week away from Election Tuesday. And so let's just, before we make our predictions, I think that'd be fun. We'll both make predictions at the end of the show, but you got to stay to the end of the show to get those.
That's true.
So let's talk about some scenarios in this thing, because everybody's making predictions. Everybody's saying if this, if that. I've been asked a lot what I think. Let's talk about it a little bit. And let's talk about, first of all, the balance of power, because this is kind of a significant thing. Everybody's focusing on the president, and that's important. But what about the Senate and the House and some of those sides of it? The Supreme Court is very severely conservative, 6-3. All of those confirmations are complete. Judge Barrett, congratulations to her, is on the court.
Which again, I mean, I made that prediction, right?
You made that prediction.
I mean, I don't know. I get 1 for 1. I'm going 2 for 2, so maybe my prediction.
All right. So what's going to happen in the Senate, and what are the implications?
I have no idea. It's the build-up, man. It's the build-up, right? Oh, goodness. You know, there's a lot of things that could happen, and I think, in all honesty, while, like you said, it is important to pay attention to the leader, because there is different leadership styles. There are, I've been called on the carpet multiple times because, like, how can you vote for Trump?
Yeah.
If that, assuming that's who I'm voting for.
If you're a Christian, how are you voting for Trump?
Right.
Yeah.
But, how could you possibly support someone like that? Because you're a Christian and, your daughters are looking at at him, like, he's bad morals, and how can you... Well, let me just be very clear that while the president is an important individual, there has always been people in every president election and term that has said the same thing. There will always be people that will disagree no matter who it is.
That's
okay?
right.
And for the record, my kids, this is just me talking, my kids don't look to the president for their morality. This is not your normal Bible talk, but where should you be looking?
I think that's a good place to say amen.
So if we're looking there, I don't think we're looking at the right place. You should be looking at the Bible. We should be paying attention to our lifestyles and how we're driving that influence in our own kids' lives, not the president.
Yeah, I do wish that our president would back off on some of his rhetoric. I don't think he does himself any favors. Some of the things that he says, some of the name calling he does, some of the things that he says, you say, where is that coming from? It really is. And I think it's important to understand that a lot of times what these guys say when they're on the campaign trail is nothing short of hyperbole. It just really is out there. And Donald Trump, his whole life has been about having not necessarily a wow factor, but a sensational, glamorous attitude and presentation. Just go back and look at The Apprentice and some of these other things that he's been behind. Go stay at a Trump hotel somewhere. They're opulent. It's incredible. But
does a Trump hotel trump the Biden hotel? That was really bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I wonder if Biden stays in Trump hotels on the election campaign. He probably doesn't.
Oh, guys, we got to reserve that for the center of the show.
That's right.
Not all through the show.
So, but I think you're right. I wish that our elected leaders would have a sense of, if nothing else, secular morality. A sense of, I didn't agree with Obama's politics. Many of them. There were things I did agree with him on. But the one thing I give the man credit for is he always had that presidential attitude, that presidential face. And I don't know what that means, except to say that the way he carried himself, the way he presented, there was a certain dignity to his presentation.
It's funny because I've met people that will say the same thing about Trump. This is my president.
Yeah.
Because they feel like somehow, again, why do we say as humans, this is my favorite Bible verse. This is my favorite pastor. This is my favorite senator. This is my favorite president. Because you like the guy, because it resonates with who you are. And it's just the way it is. Yeah. We say that. So some are going to like, some are going to not. Same is going to be true if Biden wins. Again, we're going to make some predictions. And
doesn't it go back to our moral matrix?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it really does boil down to what we resonate with at our core.
That's right.
I don't resonate with Trump the bully, but I do resonate with some of his financial policies.
That's right.
I don't resonate with this, but I might resonate with that.
There are parts of the Democratic platform that I absolutely agree with if I read it, okay? There are parts of the other platform, of the Republican platform, that I absolutely agree with.
Yes.
And in a lighthearted statement, when both of the candidates open their mouths, I don't know that I think that either of those platforms are going to happen. That's the problem. The problem is that it is politics.
Yes.
So having said that, your original question, okay? I think we've made our point on that. The original question was to talk about the balance of power, which to me is more important than just who's going to be president. Because the president has checks and balances. That's part of our democracy. That's part of the way it's set up. We've got the House. We obviously had a big change in the judicial system with Amy Coney Barrett, which, again, I just remind you, I predicted that. So
you stated the obvious, dude. I'm just going to remind you of that.
You hurt my feelings, Ben.
But you're right.
So tell me your perspective of how you think, okay, if Trump wins, what do you think is going to shift with? Because there's some people that I think are going to switch sides.
Yeah.
Inside the House. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff that might happen, assuming Trump wins for a second.
Well, and to answer your question, let me just give a short history lesson. Okay, when Obama became let me go back even further. When George Bush became president, he actually had the House and the Senate majorities. Right? They were Republican majorities in the House. There was Republican majorities in the Senate. And then he was the president. So the Republicans essentially could do whatever they wanted to, for all intents and purposes, for the first 2 years of George Bush's presidency. When Obama was elected president, there had been a complete shift. It went all Democrat. And that's part of the reason why they were able to get the Affordable Care Act passed through the way they did, is because all three branches of government, I shouldn't say all three branches, the two branches of the Congress, House and Senate, and then the president were all Democrat.
Which this is the exact reason why they're up in arms now, because of the Roe v. Wade, that's going to get overturned because now it's all Republican. Like, that's the real concern, is the shift of power.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I think that, especially with regard to Roe v. Wade, I don't know if that's so much a real concern that that's going to get overturned, as much as it is a talking point for the Democrats.
But
because
it's a fear tactic, in my opinion.
I agree, because the conservatives have had the court for the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. It's been 5-4. They could have overturned it any time they wanted to, and they haven't. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that going down that road now accomplishes anything.
But fear motivates people to make a decision and vote a certain way. So if you're driven by, I'm afraid that potentially is going to be overturned, I'm going to vote the opposite direction, which right now would be you would vote a Democratic individual.
And so I do think that especially this judge confirmation hearing for Judge Barrett,
that I got right, by the way,
that you stated the obvious on, is I do think that this is going to be a issue, a catalyst.
Yeah.
For a referendum on American politics, and specifically in the Senate. If the Senate shifts to Democrat, and there's some predicting that that's going to happen, instead of it being 53-47 Republican, it's going to switch and be 53-47 Democrat. If that really happens, one might be able to look at this and say, well, people were just upset that they rushed that through, and there's a referendum on that. Now, is that the case? I don't know. But it does concern me, because if that does in fact happen, all indications are that the Democrats are going to hold the House as well. So when you ask me about the balance of power, there is a lot at play here, because if the Democrats are able to get the White House and take over in the Senate, it really does create an interesting power shift in Washington.
And the most fascinating power shift, in my opinion, would be if it went Democrat and Biden won.
Yes.
That's where it gets, okay, now there could be some interesting shifts, potentially some laws put in place, potentially some stuff that I might not agree with. But in my opinion, that's where I think that we need to think about most. That's the reality of what's going on. Not necessarily, again, you go vote for who you think you need to vote for. But
absolutely. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in the second half of the show.
Vote for the right one.
Vote for who you're voting for, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that, because I think there's some more to unpack there, but it really does create a fascinating discussion about how it's going to turn out.
It does.
Warning, dumb dad jokes ahead.
No!
All right, we got feedback on our jokes last week, Mike. Somebody said they were getting better. Big shout out to Jesse in Arkansas for giving us props for better jokes after down week.
I feel so like my inner being and who I really feel good that someone else thinks that my jokes are as bad as they are, that they laugh at them.
Well, so, I flew last week. I flew out to Denver from here. Actually, I flew out of Tulsa and then flew to Denver. And I wonder, have you ever woken up and kiss the person who was beside you and thank the Lord that you're alive? Well, I did that, and apparently I'm not going to be allowed on that airline anymore.
This is all about elections and what's happening. So here we go. It's important to look closely when you vote. But look, when you go into the state, the location that you're voting at, there's always going to be a lot of signs. It's important that you look very closely at the lawn signs during election campaigns. The last time I voted for a real estate agent.
Oh my goodness. I wish I had better politic jokes than that, man. That's oh mercy. Okay, well, I have a friend that he went and hired a limo for $1,000, but it didn't come with the driver. And I was like, man, imagine spending all that money and nothing to chauffeur it.
That was a good one, man. I'll give you that one. So, how many Bernie Sanders supporters does it take to win a primary election?
You haven't even told me the punchline yet. How many?
It's a trick question. They can't win because they don't vote.
Dude,
goodness,
those
I'm bringing them today.
Well, just keep bringing them, dude.
I'm bringing them.
Go for it. Bring another one.
Okay, all right. Have you heard the recent? It's an added menu item at McDonald's. Have you heard?
Yeah,
have you heard
no,
this?
no.
Yeah, it's a new item. It's called the Obama Value Meal.
Yeah.
Have you heard this?
No.
So you order anything you like, and you let the guy behind you pay for it.
That definitely is this one.
Oh goodness! What do you got, man?
I don't have any good politic jokes. I should have planned better. Oh, that's really good. Okay, I'm going to go non-politics.
All right, go for it, man.
All right. Well, maybe this is political. I don't know. There's a lot of talk around here about the next presidential election could be Armageddon. And I was talking about that with this guy on the airplane, and he's like, I don't understand. I don't even know what Armageddon means. It's not like it's the end of the world.
That's so bad.
That was bad.
Goodness.
You got one more for the road?
Maybe. I don't know that it's appropriate though.
All right, hit me. I don't know. You've told a lot of inappropriate things on here.
Why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road?
Oh no, why?
Because it got stuck in the crack.
Not appropriate.
Warning, dumb dad jokes ahead.
No! No!
Oh, that's bad.
But that might have been a political joke.
That was a Hunter Biden joke.
Oh,
That's bad. Oh, man.
That's bad.
Dude, this is outrageous. This one is, it's out of control, man. You need to go on vacation more.
Dude, I don't even know where to go with this.
Okay, well, let's get back in. Let's talk about, we want to talk about the religious liberty and implications of a potential Biden presidency, as well as a potential second term for Trump. Mm-hmm. And I think as we talk about this, why are so many Christians so unchristian when it comes to politics and the current presidential election? What do you think about that, man?
Yeah, that's some pretty heavy questions, and it's interesting because I get asked that all the time as a pastor. So as I'm about to answer this, let me first give this qualification.
Okay. And
that is that as a pastor, I'm not giving nothing I say should be considered a endorsement of either candidate. I'm not endorsing either one. It's interesting. I was reading an article by a fellow by the name of Scott McKnight. I think it was in USA Today. Mm-hmm. And he made a comment. He says that the hostile and belligerent partisanship among American Christians might be compared to a fist fight over table manners on the sinking Titanic. That's pretty profound thought. And I've been stewing on those words since I read them. I wonder how much of what we argue about with regard to politics is nothing more than fighting over table manners on a sinking ship. And what are the real important issues that are going on? To me, religious liberty is the overarching issue, because if you're going to take away my religious liberty, you're also going to take all the rest of my liberty away as well. Mm-hmm. I happen to believe that when Revelation 13 talks about a time where you're going to have to be forced to worship a certain way, and if you don't, you'll be killed. I take that quite literally. Mm-hmm. I do believe there will be a time when that happens. Does that mean that Biden or Trump will do that? No, I'm not saying that at all. But just imagine for a moment if the Republicans held the House, the Senate, the presidency, and now the Supreme Court. That would be quite a power play. Conversely, if the Democrats are able to pull off President, House, and Senate in this upcoming election, because remember, the Supreme Court doesn't make policy; they just interpret law.
Right.
So that could be a fascinating thing, and I do see both of them having implications on our religious liberty.
Yes, And I would agree that I think at times our focus is on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I had a sermon while you were gone. You should listen to it. I'm just maybe not.
I have listened to part of it. And for the listener, you need to go to the YouTube channel.
The funny part about me saying that is the whole conversation is about, it's not about me. And
right.
I'm like, you should go listen
it's
to
making
my...
it about you. Irony.
But the reason I bring this up is one of the things is I was researching the methodology and the idea around how people interpret Scripture.
Yeah.
One of the common errors is that we make ourselves at the center of the interpretation. This is extremely clear when it comes to predictions about the end times.
Yes.
There are people that have been hundreds of years ago that have said, hey, Christ is coming in my time period.
Yeah.
Why? Because, well, the things that were going on felt pretty end time-ish, and it looked like it,
Feels that way now, doesn't it, with the pandemic?
It does. And it's easy to take our circumstances and then go look in Scripture.
Yes. Apply them.
About how it's going to apply to us.
Yes.
Which is not appropriate.
Correct.
Okay? Having said that, we have seen a true moral decay over the last several decades. I mean, I'm not that old. So
but it seems to be ramping up as of late.
It does seem to be. So there are implications of that. But it is truly concerning that the religious liberty and some of the things that we take for granted now could be tested. We see it through the pandemic. There are pastors that are just furious that the government would say, you have to close down your doors. That's
your houses of worship.
That's potentially, it's religious.
It's religious liberty.
It is, right?
Yeah. Well, let's illustrate it a different way. I'm going to go back a couple of years into the Obama administration at a time when in Washington they were working to legalize gay marriage. Now, again, I don't care what your personal preference on this is for the listener. You can be pro or against. My purpose is not to debate that. I do have a position, a very strong and clear position on it. But for the purpose of this discussion on liberty, a person who is gay wants to go in and get somebody to make them a cake. The cake maker says, this goes against my personal values, so I'm going to say no. The person who is in the gay relationship then, and if you're wondering, I'm reporting on a case that happened in Florida.
Okay, well, I remember there was one in Oregon.
There was one in,
similar one.
Yes, another one in Oregon. There's several that happened. But the issue is that the cake maker got his rights infringed upon because of the rights of somebody else. I think that anytime, listen, I don't think the man refusing to make the cake infringed on the rights of the gay couple to get married. All it did was it says, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this. I don't, and you and I talked about those 4 words, believe, accept, condone, and practice. Mm-hmm. It's a misunderstanding of those 4 words. But this guy says, I can't do this because by making you a cake, I'm condoning it, even though I don't necessarily think that's the case. But why doesn't he have the right to say no and it not be perceived as a crime? Right. And that's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, in part of this question that we wanted to talk through was, how do so many Christians, how do we act Christian, right? In the midst of maybe something that's a political upheaval that we don't agree with, okay? Yeah. I've had many friends respond to me in unchristian attitude and words because they're very passionate one way or the other.
Right.
So my whole thing on this part, before we get into predictions, okay, which just remember, I predicted the last one right. So I just want the listener to know that.
And I just want them to know it was obvious.
It was obviously right. So I just want the listener to hear that what really is at stake here is the vindication of God's character.
Yes.
And that happens through our attitude, through our reactions, and our testimony. It says that in Revelation. Talks about who are the people, who are the saints. People that keep my commandments and have the testimony.
That's right.
Well, how do we testify? Well, we testify by our words and by our actions.
Yes.
If you don't say anything and you don't do anything, well, I guess you're testifying that you're not doing anything.
Yes.
But the whole point of being a Christian is we're vindicating that God is who he said he was, and we do that by the way we behave, and we do it oftentimes it matters when situations are awkward.
Yes.
That's when it really matters.
Yes.
And we're getting ready right now, whether Biden wins or Trump wins, it will be awkward. Period. It's going to be uncomfortable. There are going to be issues on either side of the table. And we if you're a Christian and you're listening, I would say my challenge to you is that you have you have a decision to act like a Christian, or the alternative is act like you're not a Christian. And to me, that is what's important in the midst of all this.
Yeah, and also remember Daniel chapter 2, verse 21, the Bible reminds us that God changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings, he raises up kings, and he gives. That's important. God sets up kings, he takes them down. But then also don't forget this. He also gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He's always willing to give you discernment along the way. I don't think you have to say I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat and I'm going to vote that way because I'm a Christian. My allegiance is to Christ first and foremost. If you want to pin me down on Democrat or Republican, the answer is yes. Ask me about the specific topic, the specific policy within those things. There's so much more. I think you're 100% right on that. But with that in mind...
Well, so before you go on, you said I was 100% right, so I just want to remind the listener, okay?
He's 100% right about the obvious. We got people throwing up in their cars right now as they're listening.
If you're throwing up, you might want to go to the doctor. Maybe get some more.
Man.
All right, so we got to do predictions, man.
Yeah.
So tell me, who do you think is going to win?
I don't know. I look at this and I go back and forth because what we haven't talked about is all the mail-in ballots. Yeah. They're talking, I heard this morning, potentially 100 million mail-in ballots this year. If that's the case...
That is crazy.
That is, because that's more than voted in the entire election last time, if that's the case.
Can you imagine checking all those?
No, I can't.
We're not going to know November 3rd.
No, we won't know at all. We may not know until after the first of the year. We may not know by Christmas who the president's going to be. I don't know what to say. Here's what I will say. I predict that it's going to be a surprise. Is that vague enough?
Can I make a prediction?
I wish you would.
Okay,
Get me off the hook.
I know who's gonna win.
All right, tell me.
One of them. Oh, I told you I was gonna be right.
Hey, whoever wins is gonna sound like this.
No.
No. Here's what I really do think. This is what I'm leaning towards. Okay. What I'm leaning towards is everything it feels like. It is very closely a replication of 2016.
Yes.
There are a lot of signs that, now, could go the other way on this, but there are a lot of signs that it looks like the Democratic Party is going to win.
Yes, and win big.
They said the same thing in 2016. I have a feeling that could be a big surprise, okay? I feel like Trump is probably going to win. And that's just because the numbers that are coming out, I read a really interesting, obviously a lot of people don't think that Trump should be doing these campaigns and all these groups and massive amounts of people. And, there's comical memes about, Biden's and no one shows up and like whatever, right? They've got very clearly different morals, right? Biden is trying to be very compassionate about COVID.
Right.
Other people say that Trump doesn't care, and he's not paying attention to the medical professionals and all that stuff. There is clearly a passionate group of people, and they're coming out in big droves to see him. I read an article that was talking about a grassroots polling where, a lot of the polls are just whatever. I mean, how do they even determine who they poll?
Well, I've never been asked.
I've never been asked either.
I wish they would.
So I'll ask you.
Really? Shucks.
But they polled truckers. This is how they did this. This is my thoughts. They polled truckers as they interacted with individuals over the last several months. Who are you voting for? What is the census? And the overwhelming kind of response from the ground, not the political, we want to make it look a certain way, is clearly Trump. Now, I don't know if that's going to be accurate or not.
Yeah.
But I told you I was going to be right, and that is that one of them's going to make
One
it.
of them's to win. In that vein, I will say this. Let me make a prediction if one or the other wins. If Trump wins.
One of them will win.
One of them will win. If Trump wins, I predict that we're going to see more civil tensions, more civil unrest, more racial tensions in our country. Yeah. I also predict that this COVID pandemic will probably lag on for longer than maybe it would otherwise.
Got a vaccine.
If they do, then so be it. Look, I could be completely wrong on this. I just think that there's a very political aspect to this pandemic, and I could be completely wrong on that. And I would love for somebody to show me that, but not just tell me how they feel about it. If Biden wins, I see the civil unrest settling down. I see the racial tension settling down. But I also see the economic strife of the people in the land going up. You look at his tax plan and you read it for what it is. Dave Ramsey just had a post come out on his, I don't know if it was on social media or in an article. I saw it just briefly, but he was talking about how it will affect the middle class, my income bracket, and it means an increase of about $7,800 in taxes over the next 10 years per year. So $7,800 per year, ramping up to that over the next 10 years. Look, I already pay a lot of taxes. I'm not trying to skimp out, but $7,800 is that equates out to almost 22% of my paycheck, more than what I'm paying now. So I predict that it will be easier to preach the gospel, or at least we'll be able to go back to some semblance of pre-pandemic normalcy with Biden. But I do also think that it'll be easier to preach the gospel with the Trump presidency, because there will be more social unrest and there will be more craziness going on. So I don't know who's going to win, but that's my prediction one way or the other. And if I had to make a guess, I'm kind of like you. I'm inclined to think that probably we're going to be surprised like we were 4 years ago. I don't know. Makes for a fun conversation about it.
Someone's going to be surprised, I'll tell you that. It'll probably be the person that wins the presidency. What? I won?
We should make a guess on whether it'll be a peaceful transition of power. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
A word from the Bible.
In the beginning was the Word.
You know, we're talking about elections. So I thought it'd be appropriate to take the word from the Bible and talk about election. In modern English, elect or election is what we're in the middle of right now, where we select a leader, a representative by a group of people, and we ask them to serve us. An element of choice is involved, and since usually there are several candidates, we get to choose one or the other. But in the Bible, it's a little bit different. The verb elect is used theologically and almost always has God as its subject. God is the subject and elect is the verb. In the Old Testament, it's used for God's choice of Israel to be his people. Israel became God's people not because they decided to belong to him, but because God took the initiative and chose them. Fascinating thought that God chooses us whether we choose him or not. The same thoughts are found in the New Testament. God's people are described as his elect or his chosen ones. It's a term that Jesus used even, speaking of a future time when the Son of Man would come and gather God's people. God's people are the elect, and he will vindicate them for all their sufferings and for their patience in waiting for his coming. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, God's people are called an elect nation. So the word translated elect is generally found in the plural and refers to either members of God's people as a whole or to particular individuals or subgroups within the local church. But the effect of election is to leave no grounds whatsoever for human boasting in personal achievement or position. Whatever the elect are, whoever they are, they owe entirely to God, and they cannot boast or compare themselves with other people. I think I want to be a part of the elect. I am proud to be an American, but I'm even more humbled at the idea of being a child in the kingdom of God. Not because I wanted to be there. I'm pretty wayward, I make mistakes, but because He chose me and allows me to be there too. So the word for today is elect, and I want to be, and I'm grateful to be a part of God's elect.
A word from the Bible.
In the beginning was the Word.
Well, it was awfully kind for you to give me the last thoughts, especially since my prediction was so clear in the previous episode.
Something is wrong here. I think you get the last word all the time.
Well, I kind of predicted this would happen, so
Oh my goodness, hang on, I got something for you.
No, please go!
I have to, because it's my final thoughts. No, I've got two things that I'm thinking through. And I alluded to both of them. I talked a little bit on each of these thoughts. My initial thought is I want to encourage the listener to think about how most of the events of today, politically speaking, are a vie for your vote because they are making it about me.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's using fear, whether it's using false false facts, whether it's using emotions to drive it. It is, let's be honest, it is a vie for your vote. That's what it is. And it boils down to, it's about you. Don't you deserve better? Don't you deserve? It sounds a lot like the original issue in heaven where the devil said, well, I can do this better.
Yeah.
I think that I deserve better. So I want to challenge the listener that if it's making you think about it's about you, then maybe we need to reframe this whole thing. Because the reality is all of this is about God. All of it. And we have a part in that. And that leads me to my second thought, and that is our actions. How we act, how we behave, coming out of this election, no matter who it is, will either point people to Christ or point people away from Christ.
Yeah.
And so I want people to think about, is this really all about you? Is that what it boils down to? And how are you reacting? How are you acting as it relates to the conversations you're having, the interactions you're having? Are they pointing people to Christ? And those are my final thoughts.
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate it. Brings us to the end of another show. This part of the show makes me sad, man. I enjoy these conversations. And
You're such an emotional man.
where's my tissues? The reason the show is over is because I'm out of coffee.
Well, I've got about 4 big gulps left. It is really good.
This
is
is
good cold, just as good as it is hot.
I don't generally like cold drinks, but this one is really good. Listen, guys, thanks for making us a part of your playlist, whether you got us on Apple, Pandora, Spotify, iHeart. We're on all of those platforms and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for making us part of your playlist. By the time next week rolls around, Mike, we still probably won't know who the president is, but we can talk about it. Want to do that?
I already told you.
You already told me who it's going to be. Oh,
I
man.
love and appreciate each one of you. Thank you for checking us out. Give us a share. Give us a like. Please send us your feedback as long as it's good feedback.
Well, even if it's bad, tell us why it's bad so we can talk about it.
There you go. Or talk about you.
I don't know. We'll pray for him anyway.
Guys, appreciate you tons. Look forward to next time.
All right, I think we're recording here. Are we recording all around?
We are recording everywhere.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Marcus.
I've been everywhere, man.
Hi, Marcus.
Marcus.
Wish you were here with your hoity-toity coffee.
Marcus. You're going down.
Focus.
Focus on what I'm saying, Marcus.
Should put that in the bloopers. Whoa.
Marcus.
This seat wiggles.
Marcus. Marcus. Subliminal messages, Marcus. Subliminal.
Don't listen to my co-partner over there. He turned me off when I said that. Is the screen on that side?
All right.
You ready?
I am.
All right.
Are you ready?
I guess.
What are we talking about?
I have no idea. I didn't write any notes this time. I'm gonna lean on you to get us through this.
I gotta go. You know why I didn't write any notes this time?
Why?
I'm just trying to be like Amy Coney Barrett. Except for when they ask me a question, I go.
All right.
Here we go. So Ben, last week we recorded about the SCOTUS hearings, and I think I was pretty clear, anyways, that I knew the outcome and what it would be.
Well, that's true, you did, but I mean, really, who didn't know how the outcome was going to be?
But Ben, hold on a second here. You're a pastor, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't the Bible say there's only one true test for a prophet? It's whether or not their predictions come true?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it was so much of a prediction or a statement of the obvious that you made.
I guess it's a matter of perspective. I'm right, you're wrong. You know, like, it's my reality should be... I screwed that up.
Take two.
I'm reading it for the first time. My reality should be your reality. Don't you think so?
No!